Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. We have the results for the by-elections to local councils across England and Scotland that happened last Thursday the 14th of November. We did do a preview video last Wednesday having a look at each of these, or most of these wards and councils, giving an idea of what may happen. Some we hit, some we certainly missed, and I made a couple of mistakes in that video too. So happy to admit to those. Hold my hands up. I apologise. I will try and make the content of these videos better as we go along, but that's going to involve me making mistakes and learning as we go. So I'll admit to those as we come to them. Let's start off with the easy ones though. The ones that we did get. Labour did hold the 2 council seats in East Ayrshire. In fact, they increased their vote share in both of those by around about 10%, give or take. Probably their best showing of the night, actually, in East Ayrshire. So that one we got. They also held both the London seats, or London councils. They held on in Greenwich and in Redbridge councils. Although interesting to see, in Redbridge in particular, that the Labour Party did lose 12% of their vote there. And the Tories and Reform both did pretty well. The Tories gained 17%, the Reform Party gained 16% into a strong third place. There was no independent here, which stood previously, who gained 21% of the vote, so that was up for grabs. But Labour, although they won and held on pretty comfortably, did lose a fairly alarming amount of support there. Reform and the Tories kind of cancelling each other out. With both gaining a similar amount of the vote share there. But Labour did hold on in both in London. And the Liberal Democrats held both Milton Keynes council seats as we thought they would. They improved, in fact, to over 50% of the vote in both. Very comfortable holds there, as we forecast they would be. More on the Liberal Democrats in a minute, because they were the big winners of the night. But first, the other one we did get was Labour held on to the Whitburn and Blackburn ward in West Lothian Council. But again, another surprising thing to see is Reform did pretty well here. They jumped up past the Conservatives, totally cannibalised the Conservative vote, and jumped up into third place with 16.3% of first preference votes. Now, they're still a very long way behind the Labour Party, who were first, and indeed the SNP, who were a fairly close second on first preference votes. But just interesting to see Reform doing quite well in these areas that we haven't necessarily associated with Reform up until this point. You know, London, Edinburgh. So it's just interesting to see. But those are the ones that we did get. The other one we did call was Calver and Longstone ward in Derbyshire. If you remember, we said how the Greens held this previously, and in the election, I think it was in 2022 or 2023, there had only been 2 candidates, one Green, one Conservative, and the Greens just managed to pip the Conservatives to the post. It was very close. I think there was only 30 votes in it or something. Very close anyway. And we said that with Labour standing a candidate this time, that may split that more left-wing vote, and that is what happened. The Greens lost 11%. Most of that went to Labour, who gained 9%, and the Conservatives managed to gain 2% themselves. So the Conservatives back in Calver and Longstone ward and Derbyshire Council, as we thought they might be. So on to the ones that I didn't quite get right. I'll start in Edinburgh, and this moves us on to the theme of the Liberal Democrats having a very good night. So Colinton and Fairmile Head ward on Edinburgh District Council. I'll show you this website, which I showed previously. It's called, I'm going to give it a shout out. I should have shouted out last time, really. Ballotbox.scot is the website name or link, and I'll leave the link in the description for you to go and check them out yourself. If you're interested in politics, and obviously Scottish politics in particular, this is a brilliant website. Great data, great analysis, and breaking everything down. It's a great source of information. I have to admit, when I used this website previously on the video last week, I did get suckered in a little bit to looking at the pretty pictures and not so much at the text, which I should have. I said that Labour would probably hold this fairly comfortably because they'd had a 20% margin previously. The parliamentary constituency was fairly safe Labour too. and that's where I left it. So I said it would be a pretty safe Labour hold. However, the Liberal Democrats proved me completely wrong. And if I had scrolled down, I would have first seen that this is actually in the past, has been a fairly conservative friendly ward in Edinburgh, which may have coloured my thinking slightly. I certainly wouldn't have projected the Liberal Democrats might win based off that, but it may have slightly coloured my analysis of and what I said in the video. If I'd scrolled down further and read some of the very detailed and informative wording, I would have seen that the person who runs this website had been informed by multiple sources that the Lib Dems are absolutely gunning for this. So that certainly may have coloured the thinking, and clearly the Liberal Democrats' efforts here paid off. They won this seat fairly comfortably off of Labour. Labour's vote share decreased by 14%. They're actually beaten into second place by the Conservatives, only by a hair. The Conservatives also lost 10% of their support, but the Lib Dems stormed into the lead on first preference votes, up to 36%, gaining 24% of the vote, and getting a gainer off of Labour here. So a very good evening for the Liberal Democrats in Edinburgh. Likewise, a very good night for the Liberal Democrats in Chipping Norton, another one where I said that Labour would hold on fairly comfortably. The reason for that was I showed you results for a Chipping Norton ward. I think I actually had the wrong councillor's results for this ward, so that's my second mistake. However, I managed to find the correct councillor. It was Rizvana Poole, is the councillor who resigned her seat. She won previously, as you can see, with a huge majority anyway, 600 votes, and the Liberal Democrats, way behind, a very distant third, over 1,000 votes behind the winning Labour candidate. So I think my projection would have been the same. I would have said that Labour were going to defend this seat fairly comfortably, but they didn't. I'll show you the results here. In fact, it's easy to see. Chipping Norton's been won by the Liberal Democrats. They gained another 25%. Labour's vote shares just collapsed totally here, 34% down. The Conservatives managed to gain 9% themselves, but the Liberal Democrats are again the big winners, and they're sort of showing that, you know, where Labour's vote is suffering for whatever reason, whether that's to do with what's happening at a national level in the UK at the moment and some of the unpopularity the government's getting itself into, the Conservatives aren't really able to capitalise on it at the moment because they're not really they're a bit of a spent force at the moment. So the Liberal Democrats are just able to sneak in there and make big gainers. So they win Chipping Norton off of the Labour Party in West Oxfordshire District Council. That council is Lib Dem controlled in a minority coalition. It's a coalition between the Liberal Democrats, Labour and the Green Party. This victory for them doesn't change that. It's still a minority. The Liberal Democrats are now, with this result, 3 short of a majority on that council. So it was a very, very good night for the Liberal Democrats. They were certainly the big winners of the night across all of these by-elections. Which brings us on, lastly, then, to the two in Telford and Wrekin Council. We did say that Labour would defend these, and they have. However, they were pushed remarkably close, certainly in the Nedge ward. The Conservatives lost out by less than 1% here, so only 16 votes in it. As you can see there, 16 votes in it. Labour just managed to cling on. Reform did very well here. They got into a very strong third place with 22.7% of the vote. I'm not entirely sure where the Nedge ward is in terms of its geography, in terms of parliamentary constituencies. The Wrekin is a Conservative constituency they've just managed to hold on to. Telford itself is a Labour constituency, which they won in July. So, bit interesting to see. Again, Labour's vote share very much damaged at 21% down, almost 21% down. And the Reform Party are really the big gainers off that, gaining 22%. And the Tories managing to gain 7% themselves, but it's coming just short of managing to win this one. Hadley and Lee Gomery ward was a little bit more comfortable. Labour still fairly comfortably ahead, but again down 12% their vote share. and Reform up 16%. The Tories actually managed to gain even more than Reform here. They are up 17%. So two holds for Labour that we did predict, but they were very close. And I think, in fact, I to tell you, across the English seats, or across these English by-elections, so discounting the Scottish ones, in England, in these by-elections, Labour's vote dropped by an average of 10%, Reform's was up by 12%, and the Conservatives and Liberal Democrats both up by about 3.5%. So we're just seeing this theme of Labour support dropping quite significantly in some cases, and most of that being picked up by Reform, with the Conservatives and Liberal Democrats picking up some scraps here and there. But certainly at the moment it seems Reform is the party with the momentum. Labour are currently struggling to hold up their vote, and the Liberal Democrats at the moment are able to sneak in and make some, I'll get some big wins off the back of that. The Conservatives at the moment, although they're up the same amount in terms of vote share, just aren't able to capitalise in the way the Lib Dems have. But the Liberal Democrats are very good at motivating, getting their vote out in a very concentrated area, and I think we're seeing that. We've seen that with what's happened in Edinburgh certainly, and probably in West Oxfordshire too. So we just scroll up to the by-election vote share since the general election. So since July, the share of the vote in by-elections, you can see Labour is really struggling. Before July, they were getting about 33.2% of the vote in by-elections. Now they're right down to just under 25%, and they're neck and neck now with the Tories, having previously held a 10% advantage over them. In fact, you can see every party's general trajectory is upwards, just about, with the exception of Labour, that's fairly steep decline at the moment. So there is some trouble for Labour. I think some people think that I'm overdoing the negative analysis on Labour, but I think they are in trouble at the moment. They certainly need a narrative shift to kind of stop the rot. We can see that since, again, if we flip to the other side of the screen, since the election in July, Labour have defended 70 seats and they've only managed to win back 48 of them. So, with the Conservatives being the main winners of them. So Labour are currently going in the wrong direction as far as they're concerned, and they do need something to stop the rot. So that's all for this video. We've got 15 more by-elections this week, on Thursday of this week. This one, the Liberal Democrats are the main defenders. They're defending 6. Labour will be defending 5, and there are 4 independents defending, or previously independent incumbents whose seats are now up. Some of those independents are standing, or it's like a local alliance, a local residents alliance are standing another candidate. Some of the independents are gone, so there's some that are up for grabs. Interesting parts of the country that some of these are happening in too, where we might expect to see Reform do very well. And I'll be doing a video on previewing those. Expect to see that on Wednesday, the day before those elections, on the Thursday. So that's all for this one. Thank you again for watching. Please do leave a like and subscribe to the channel, and please do leave a comment with any suggestions for how I can make the content better. Any improvements you can think of, constructive criticism is most welcome. Thank you for your time, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.